So, and I think we talked about this last time, that we would probably just focus on a lot of the speaking practice stuff and not necessarily do vocabulary together because of time.
Yeah.
So let's kind of
I
focus
did the
on.
adjective thing that you told us to do, making the
Oh, the adjective charts?
And it
Yeah.
did help.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a big difference, doesn't it?
It took
to
a
just-
long time.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of the things that are useful to do for Japanese study are time consuming.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the nature of language studies, that you have to put a fair amount of time into it to get a lot out of it. Okay. So, let's see.
We were on D, I think.
Okay. So answer the following questions. Yeah, so let's go ahead and practice. Okay, so, Ryan-san, why don't you read the question and Himena-san the answer, and we'll kind of start from there for D on page 138. はい。
日本語のクラスは難しいですか？
難しいです。いえ、難しくないです。
Right. So they're just giving you both answers, so you can choose which way you want to answer. They're just giving you both examples. じゃあ、Himena-san、一番お願いします。
今日は暇ですか？今日は暇じゃないです。
じゃあ、
先生は優しいですか？
Ryan-san, why don't you go ahead, because I think Joe's working
Yeah.
on his own stuff for now.
Answer the question.
はい。
先生は優しいですか？
優しいです。
じゃあ、どうぞ、3番。
今日は大きいですか？
ええ、大きいです。
じゃあ、どうぞ。
部屋はきれいですか？部屋はきれいじゃないです。Everyone's all wandering.
So, and for the negatives, they want you to start with いいえ、きれいじゃないです。
いえ、きれいじゃないです。
はい、いいですね。じゃあ、5番。
日本の食べ物は美味しいですか？
美味しいです。We're all saying yes.
I said no to my movie.
Right. どうぞ。6番ですね。
クラスは面白いですか？
ええ、面白いです。
はい。じゃあ、どうぞ。
宿題は難しいですか？いいえ、難しくないです。
はい。いいですね。難しくないです。
あなたの町は静かですか？静かですか？
いいえ、街は
Excuse me.
静かしくないです。
静か。
No, 静かじゃない。
There you go.
です。
静かじゃないです。静か not. Yeah. Remember that 静か is a non-adjective. It's a good idea when you're memorizing vocab to keep the na on there for all the na adjectives. It's a way of remembering which is which, especially for those few that happen to end in E,
Yeah.
because then they can feel confusing, and you want to start conjugating kirei as if it were E instead of na. But even with the other ones, if you remember it as shizukana, then even when it comes up in context without the na, like shizuka desu ka, if you go to conjugate it, hopefully you'll remember shizukana. Oh, okay, so shizuka janai desu.
Is Shizukana the dictionary form? Because I didn't.
I think if you look it up in the dictionary, it'll just show you Shizuka, but its category is not adjective.
Okay.
Yeah, so just like oo verbs and ru verbs and irregular verbs are three different category of verbs, adjectives have the two categories, e and na.
Okay.
Okay. And I think if you look up Shizuka, you would just get Shizuka. But they might put the na in parentheses even in some dictionaries. Or label it as a na keiyoshi. Okay, so, let's see, the pair work is also not on the recording, so do you wanna do that one, or do you feel like you're ready to move on to past tense?
Just making sentences.
Yeah, this is making sentences, so, for example, 友達の部屋は綺麗です。でも私の部屋は綺麗じゃないです。So they're wanting you to do like contrast sentences where one thing is the positive and something else is the negative of that adjective. So their example was, somebody's room is pretty but someone else's room is not, right?
Demo, okay. Demo.
Okay, with a demo. So, whose turn was it?
I just want to.
Okay, Ryan's. じゃあ1番, try making two sentences with 面白い, one positive and one negative. Do you remember what 面白い means?
Yes.
Okay.
I was thinking.
Interesting, yeah.
One that's, interesting.
Yeah. Interesting, or, yeah, it can mean fun in the sense of, like, fun to do, but not funny per se, not like laugh out loud funny. Omoshiroi is usually, well, it can mean, like, interesting and a little bit unusual or odd. So this could be funny, but it's not necessarily a joke. It
Yeah.
could be just something that's interesting or fun.
Okay. 日本語は面白いです。
はい。
でも映画は面白くない。
あ、映画 or 英語。
英語。
はい。英語は面白くないですか？いいですよ。じゃあ2番どうぞ。
今日の天気はいいです。
はい。
でも昨日の天気は良くなかったです。
はい、いいですね。はい、じゃあ3番どうぞ。
I think there's like a scary.
We don't know a lot of vocabulary words for things that are scary yet.
Yeah.
Obake is a ghost, if that helps.
Sorry, monkey.
Okay.
Scary.
Okay.
So scary.
Some of them are cute, but some of them are scary.
Okay.
Saru wa kawaii desu.
Sorry.
Saru,
The
monkey.
monkeys.
Yeah, if you want to be specific, you could do like
How do you-
anosaru, that particular monkey,
Yeah,
you know.
Saru.
Anosaru
Have you
wa
like heard
kawaii
that
desu.
chimp that like ripped off the woman's face? That's scary.
Okay, so anosaru wa kawaii desu.
Neko wa kawakunai desu.
はい、いいですよ。Okay, じゃあ4番どうぞ。あ、シリアル。
Shiria. Shiria. I can't say it. Shiria.
はい。
シリアルシリアルは美味しいです。 your pen. Pen wa.
Pens aren't
Yeah,
delicious.
pens are definitely not delicious, although you couldn't prove it by my daughter. She puts everything in her
I'm
mouth.
trying to say that.
Oishii desu ne.
Okay. その車は高いです。
はい、
でもこの自転車は高くないです。
いいですね。はい。
かっこいい。Can I say like 彼はかっこいいです。彼は boyfriend。
Okay.
彼は
彼は
かっこいいです。
はい。
I don't know. I'm gonna try.
Some celebrity maybe? Somebody that you don't like?
I don't follow celebrities, which
Okay.
is probably a good thing.
Yeah, probably, but, or a
How do you
politician
say-
you don't like? Donald Trump.
I was thinking of that, but I didn't want to say anything. Donald Trump. Wow. Maybe like かっこよくないです。
There you go, kakuyoku nai desu. Yeah, he thinks he's handsome. I think he's the only one though.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hair is just ridiculous, right?
Yeah, it's like a toupee.
Yeah. Apparently he's had the same hairstyle for a really long time though, because I saw some old footage of him from like the 80s and he looks pretty much the same, only younger. Kakuyoku nai desuね。じゃあ、ライアンさん7番。
お兄さんは元気です。
はい。
お姉さんは元気じゃないです。
はい。いいですよ。
お
お姉さん。Older sister, yeah. お兄さん、older brother, お姉さん、older sister. はい。
今日は暇です。でも明日は暇じゃないです。
はい、いいですよ。じゃあ、so this is just like making a couple of sentences about whatever the topic is that they gave you. So, 人は難しくないです、優しいです。So again, they want you to use maybe two different adjective sentences, one positive, one negative if you can.
Oh, about what they give you?
Yeah. So 一番どうぞ。
Okay. 私は暇じゃないです。私は忙しいです。
はい。です。忙しいです。どうぞ。2番。
So you say the same thing.
私の町は and then a couple of different adjectives about your town.
What's the word for boring?
つまらない。
私の町は面白いです。
はい。
Great. つまらなくないです。
はい、つまらなくないです。はい。いいですよ。じゃあ、皆さん、3番。
Okay. 私の隣の人は元気です。What was 隣 again?
隣、next to.
Oh, yeah. I don't know, what's an opposite of genki?
I haven't really
What?
taught.
What do you?
No, no. Genki can be either healthy or energetic. So, byoki would be sick. That opposite. They haven't really taught.
Okay, I'll change it.
Okay.
私の隣の人は優しいです。綺麗じゃないです。
Hi, that works. Right? Yeah. 嫌いじゃないです。
think so, yeah, we did.
Oh, you did it when?
We did it last time.
We did it, okay, I didn't remember that, okay.
I did.
Okay, yeah, we skipped some, okay, so, and let's see, A and B of section 3 are all off the recording, so we don't have to do those.
We can do
4A, you wanna try that one next?
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is ski and.
Oh, yeah, so, does anyone need to review the grammar first, or you're okay?
No, it's pretty.
Okay, pretty simple, okay, whose turn was it to read next? Ah,
Hey.
Well,
I did homework, so yes.
okay, so Eddie's
So-
so, so you're gonna, read example A and Ryan's gonna answer.
Okay. Sakana ga ski desu ka?
Okay, hi, so
I'll
you.
read all the ice.
Yeah, hi, ski desu, dai desu, or if you don't like it, you can do
Kirai.
ie kirai desu, or dai kirai desu.
desu.
You want to be very careful with kirai and dai kirai because they are so much stronger than the English translations seem to imply. So, you know, if you, if,
It's extremely good.
yeah, it's really rude in Japanese culture when you don't know how the other person feels about it yet to express a strong negative opinion about something. So, you know, if you know already that the other person hates fish too, then you can say, watashi mo sakana ga kirai desu, and they're fairly safe, you're not gonna offend them.
So would it be like,
I'm gonna eat sushi.
ski janai?
Yeah, ski janai or amari ski janai are safer than kirai desu. And dai kirai is really, really strong.
So if somebody says sakana ga suki desu ka, you can say chotto or what?
Yeah, yeah, so if you know the other person, you know, the other person, "私は魚が好きですよ。皆さんは?" And you can say, 魚はちょっと, you know, something like that. Or 魚はあんまり好きじゃないですね. But you say it with some hesitation so that you don't sound like you're not trying to insult the other person's opinion, right? Because if you say it too strongly, it can come across as, you must be some kind of idiot for liking that, you know?
Yeah.
You know, Japanese people are a lot politer about opinion stuff than we are in this country. We tend to be very outspoken about, you like that? Really? You know? Japanese people don't like to do it that way, so.
Okay.
So,
Do we choose from what they give us?
yeah, so like within the foods category, so like, Ryan-san can pick meat or natto or aisukurimu to ask about.
How does natto taste like? I've always wanted to try.
It's really weird and
Why?
I couldn't get past the smell, so I don't know that I ever really gave it a fair
It
shot.
sounds bad. Fermented.
It's from, yeah, something about the fermentation process, the beans sort of shrink, so that they're smaller than like edamame that you get that are green, you know, and they're brown. They're like almost the color of your bag. And they're like sticky, like, you know how like melted cheese gets all stringy and you try to pick it up, it makes strings? Natto has that kind of stuff around the beans, so when you go to take a, you know, chopstick full of it, there are strings that don't want to separate so easily. And some people mix it, like they put it on top of their rice or whatever and mix it up together. I was never able to get past the smell, because it has a very strong fermented smell, kind of reminiscent of like some of the smellier cheeses that are really strong.
It looks really good though. I don't know about the smell, I've never
Yeah.
smelled it, but as far as what it looks like, it looks,
It looks good to you,
Looks-
okay.
looks great.
Yeah, I feel like now I would be more willing to try it, but when I was a teenager and I was first encountering it, I was like, no way, you know? But I have a more open mind about trying different tastes now than I did back then, so. Yeah, when I first went to Japan, I was like, no, I'm not tasting that.
はい
はい、どうぞ。
アイスクリームは好きですか？
Is it
が
が、いや、アイスクリームが。
アイスクリームが好きですか？
いいえ。嫌いです。
あ、
I
いい
don't like ice cream. Okay.
どうぞ。
肉が好きですか？
Oh, I thought we were okay. 肉が嫌いです。
あ、そうですか。じゃあ、どうぞ。
Am I doing like which number?
You can go on to the next number. We don't have to do everything in each category if you don't want to. This is just, you know, we're practicing as much as you feel you need to.
Okay.
So,
サッカーが好きですか？
はい、好きです。
どうぞ。
あ、ゴルフは好きですか？
いいえ。嫌いです。
Ga. Remember to use ga.
Ga.
Ga. Yes, ka.
Okay.
Remember that the part that would take wa is actually being left out. It would be like, Himeno-san wa gorufu ga suki desu ka? Iie, kirai desu.
Okay. ロックが好きですか？
僕がちょっと。
はい, okay.
What about just reading end of it?
Yeah, you could do it like that, or 僕はあんまり好きじゃないですね. That works too, but ちょっと works fine there. Yeah. どうぞ.
Oh, okay. Um, 日本語のバスが好きですか？
はい、大好きです。
どうぞ.
宿題は好きですか？宿題が好きですか？
いいえ。大嫌いです。
はい、どうぞ.
コーヒーが好きですか？
コーヒーが大嫌いです。
あ、そうですか.
I can't be friends, I'm sorry. You don't like, what is it? You don't like meat? You don't like coffee?
You don't like ice cream?
Ice cream is too sweet. I don't like ice cream.
I like ice cream. We can't be
Can't be
friends.
That's all right. That's so funny. Well, by the way, they give you this little asterisk. If you neither like nor dislike it, you can use ski demo, kirai demo, nai desu.
Oh, I wish I could have seen that. There's a lot of things in here I don't care.
Okay, so should we practice a couple don't care answers?
Yeah.
So, どうぞ. Who wants to?
テストが好きですか？
いや、好きじゃない。嫌いです。
Oh, I got it. 納豆が好きですか？
好きでも嫌いでもないです。
ない
好きでも嫌いでも。What?
ないです.
Oh, nine. Nine.
Yeah, so you're saying I neither like it nor dislike it.
Okay, 好きが好きですか？
好きが
Ski.
Ah,
ski
I
desu
see.
ka? Make sure that ski and ski don't sound the same because one's got the extended vowel and one doesn't.
Ski and ski.
Yeah, ski ga suki desu ka?
好きが好きですか？
There you go.
好きでも嫌いでもないです。
はい、ski demo kirai demo nai desu. Make sure that the like ski is a short key versus the sport is ski.
Ski.
And, yeah. Ski は日本で人気があります. It's very popular in Japan. Yeah, ski. There are a number of ski resorts in mountain There are places in Japan where the snow could be taller than you.
That won't be hard, it might be short.
But, yeah, but with global warming, it's not as common as it used to be. But there are homes in northern and very snow-heavy parts of Japan. There are homes that are built with this roof like that, so that the snow can fall off the edges instead of breaking the roof in, because if you built it like that, it would cave the roof in on you in the wintertime. So they built it at that kind of a steep angle. And the first floor is like a full-sized floor, and then the second story of the house is narrower because of the roof, and then the third story is even narrower, and the fourth story is like a teeny tiny little attic. And they build the windows on those homes, that they build the side windows big enough that when the snow is past the front door, you can open up the second story window and get in and out of the house that way.
Oh my God.
Because the snow is sometimes that high.
Wow.
Pretty crazy, huh? So they literally, like, they build the homes in those parts of Japan to where you don't have to tunnel out of your front door, you just go out the second story window. Yeah, there's an area of Japan known as snow country, where that's the kind of snow they get in the wintertime, or at least they used to. I don't know if it's still that extreme these days.
Where is it at?
Snow country is actually in the western part of, just a little bit north of central Japan. That's just because of the shape of the island, that part of Honshu gets a whole lot of snow dumped on it. It's west of the mountain range, the main mountains. And so all the cold air coming off of China, and the China Sea, all of the like cold weather coming over from China, it sort of comes over to Japan, hits that mountain range and just stops. And so from the mountains westward, all the snow dumps there, and hardly any of it makes it across the mountains to eastern Japan.
Does it snow in Tokyo?
Very little, very rarely. I think the year I lived there, we got like one snowfall, and it was barely more than flurries. I don't think it even stuck. The climate in Tokyo is very similar to like Atlanta, Georgia, where they rarely get snow, and when they do, they don't know what to do about it because they get it so rarely. They've got like 2 snowplows for the whole city, I think.
It's not like in New York last winter, when it was like, snow up north.
Yeah.
It was really bad.
Yeah, but the snow country area and like up north into Hokkaido, they know how to deal with snow, because a lot of times while we're celebrating Halloween, they're already shoveling snow.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, the very northern parts of Japan are comparable to southern Canada.
And the south part is just like warm.
Well, that's the thing, it's mountainous. So even southern Japan gets snow. Not Okinawa, the islands are more like Hawaii. But Kyushu, the coastlines are lower, closer to sea level, so they don't get snow necessarily. But you go into the interior of the island, and they're volcanic islands, so the altitude can get high enough, and they're far enough from the equator, not like Hawaii, that they actually do get snow up in the mountains in Kyushu, even though it's that far south. It's latitude-wise, it's probably somewhat equivalent to Florida, maybe North Florida, but it's not flat like Florida, it's all mountains. So I was in Kyushu in March, and there were still like shady areas where there would be like a little patch of snow still on the ground in March, because it hadn't had a chance to melt yet because it was under shade. and it hadn't been hot enough to melt it. It was cold there in March. And I wasn't expecting that because it was so far south of Tokyo, but it was actually colder down there than it was in Tokyo in March.
It's hot here.
But all parts of Japan get hot in the summertime, at least for part of the summer. The northernmost parts of Japan only get hot for a short while, and it's over again quickly. It got like blistering, blazing hot, sweating all the time for like 2 weeks in Hokkaido, and that was it.
My friend was in Akita. She was.
Yeah, but Tokyo is like Florida in the summer. It's as hot and muggy there as it is here in summertime.
That's
Atsui.
I would never go to summer.
Atsui, and mushi atsui. Mushi is like the water content of the air part of the word, so mushi atsui is like hot and humid. And yeah, all of Japan has mushi atsui weather, at least some of the time in the summer. But southern parts of Japan and coastal parts of Japan, like really, really extreme. Like you wouldn't expect Japan to get up to like 30 degrees Celsius, you know, that's like almost 100, but it can. It doesn't always, but it can. And certainly the 90s for sure. And you know those days we have in Florida where it feels like it's 99% humidity, it's trying to rain but it can't. They get like that in Japan too. And then there's basically a month in the summertime in Japan that's considered a separate season sometimes, called Tsuyu, which is rainy season. And it doesn't rain every single day, but it rains almost every day. And the days that it rains, it often rains the whole day.
It's nice.
But it's a humid, warm rain, so it's not even cold, even if you're out in it. The dance festival where I lived sometimes fell overlapping with rainy season, and there were people who would just keep on dancing even though it was pouring, and we'd be just soaked to the skin, the colors from our yukata bleeding onto our skin, and still dancing. Nobody wants to go home yet, okay, we'll keep dancing, fine, whatever, And the musicians had a little pavilion they were sitting under, so they were protected from the rain, so they were willing to keep playing. And as long as there were people still dancing, they'd keep playing.
Let's see that.
Yeah, so we were all, wet hair, wet kimonos.
That's cool.
Okay, so ready to try part B of this segment?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're asking what type of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so donna is like what kind of. Okay, who's starting?
I'm sorry.
Okay, dozo.
どんなスポーツが好きですか?
Well, どんなスポーツが好きですか?
Ryan さん、どんなスポーツが好きですか?
Okay. It's basketball, basketball,
はい、バスケットボール。
basketball, tennis. Wait, is it car tennis or toe
バ
tennis?
スケットボールとテニス。
Toe, tennis, toe. How's it called? Go. Football. が好き。
はい、いいですね。
がは
が好きです。はい。じゃあ2番どうぞ。
どんな食べ物が好きですか?
肉と野菜と魚との肉ですね。が好きです。
いいですよ。じゃあ3番どうぞ。
どんな飲み物が好きですか?
水が好きです。
ね、いいですね。 differentiation is something like "Tabemasen ka?" Won't you please eat it? It's very like polite invitation. "Tabemashou ka?" is like, shall we eat it? So it's a little bit more
Isn't it like, let's do it?
friends. Yeah, well, "mashou" would be let's. So there's like 3 different levels we're dealing with here. "Masen-ka" is like, please won't you, like I'm inviting you. I'm being very polite. "Mashou-ka" is like, shall we? Like, I'm, you're friends, you're inviting the other person, but you're not sure if they want to or not. Okay, and then "mashou" is more like, either you're sure that they like this idea, so let's do it, or you've already kind of been talking about, let's do this activity, now you're saying, okay, let's do it now, let's go. You know, "ikimashou," let's go already. You know? Okay, so that's the differentiation between "mashou ka," "mashou," and "masen-ka." Okay, samui desu ne. So let's see so Eddie-san to Ryan-san, let's do A and B
Oh,
again.
okay. 寒いですね。
Like where?
The example, part B example.
寒いですね。お茶を飲みましょうか。
So, what?
So shimashou. That's like, let's do that.
Okay, so
Okay.
shimashou.
You remember the so from like so des?
That's right.
And shimashou is the conjugation from shimas. So shimasu is like, I will do that. So shimashou is let's do that. So she's saying, it's cold, how about we drink some hot tea? And you're saying, yeah, let's do that. Okay, so Ryan-san, 1番どうぞ.
暑いですね。Make a suggestion.
Yeah.
冷たい飲み物を飲みましょう。
飲みましょうか? Yeah, they want you to do
飲み
it.
ましょうか。
そうしましょう。
はい、そうしましょう。はい、いいですね。じゃあ2番どうぞ。
12時ですね。昼ご飯を食べましょうか。ああ、そうしましょう。
はい、そうしましょう。はい、じゃあどうぞ3番。
ああ、この宿題は難しいですね。Nice suggestion.
Make a suggestion.
Okay. 図書館で宿題を勉強しましょうか。
Okay.
はい、そうしましょう。
そうしましょうね。いいですね。じゃあどうぞ。
明日は先生の誕生日ですよ。プレゼントを買いましょうか。
そうしましょう。
いいですね。でもそうです。
レストランは美味しいですよ。晩ご飯を食べましょうか。そうしましょう。
そうしましょう。いいですね。
明日はテストがありますね。What's あります？
あります to have.
I remember now.
Yeah. 明日はテストがありますね。
テストを勉強しましょうか。
そうしましょう。
はい、いいですね。質問がありますか? Any questions about those?
How do you say? I know he said buy a present, but what's there difference say always get her a present?
Get
Get a present.
Or should we always use like
買いましょう is more likely. Yeah, I can't think of
Do you have a word for
another. Make would be 作る. So 作りましょう would be make a present. Yeah. presentを作りましょう.
Usually you buy people presents.
Yeah. Well,
Usually.
depends.
Well, I mean,
We
so
think
if
about
some,
that.
if it's your mom, I guess you can make it.
right, well, if somebody's a good cook, they might make cookies or brownies as a gift, you know.
Oh yeah, bake.
Yeah.
Yes, bake.
Yeah.
Let's say like,
How do you say bake?
Some really good cookies.
Well, you could say yori suru for to do cooking. Yeah, yori shimashou.
Oh, it's cookers.
Yeah. So, any questions about any of the grammar points? Most of the grammar structures in this chapter are fairly straightforward to understand. It's just, you know, practicing the
Yeah.
adjectives that usually gets people. But there are, oh, and the counting, the using, they didn't do any practice activities for counting, did they? Okay. Are there some practice activities for counting in here perhaps? Let's look. Because we really ought to have some practice for how to count numbers of things, right? So you've got questions.
They got some. And the default expressions at the end.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so here we go, like, go to Imperial Sanmai Kudasai. So should we talk about those maybe before we get into the, Mafume no Renshu? Okay. So, kore onegaishimasu is like, please take care of this for me. So it's especially common when you're a customer and you're asking for somebody to check you out or whatever. You know,
Mhm.
kore onegaishimasu. I want this, please. You know, and then notice that the item you want is followed by your particle o, and then the number with the counting word for how many of it that you want in kudasai. So like, if you're buying stamps, kitte o sanmai kudasai. Whether it's gojuin, kitte, or other denominations, you know, you're asking for 3 of them. You know, or if you're buying hagaki, postcards, hagaki o, 10枚ください, 10 of them, or 15枚ください, 15 of them, whatever. Okay? If you're in a shop, it could be like T-shirts o 2枚ください. 2 T-shirts, you know. Some of the other things
So
that.
wait, they have counters for different things?
Yeah, they actually classify, yeah, they classify, nouns by, kind of by shape or size or sometimes other attributes. So.
What about like animals?
Yeah,
Like if you're
animals.
counting sheep or something.
Yeah, animals are hi for
Hiki?
smaller animals, and then I think they use to for some of the larger animals.
What?
Yeah, and then, you know, thin flat objects like things
Paper.
made out of paper, CDs and DVDs, shirts and some other clothing type items, they use mai. So ichimai, nimai, sanmai. And the reason I introduced mai first in this chapter is because it doesn't shift its pronunciation for any reason. It doesn't shift the numbers pronunciation for any reason, whereas some of the others, like counting animals, for example, you're counting how many cats somebody has. Ippiki, ni hiki, sanbiki, you know, it shifts the pronunciation kind of like the way hyaku shifts.
Oh, yeah.
You remember hyaku?
Yeah.
Hyaku, nihyaku, sanbyaku, yonhyaku, gohyaku, rokhyaku. Those shifts occur with a lot of, so like if you're counting, any of the ones that start with H, they make those kinds of shifts, like hyaku does. Hon is long skinny objects like chopsticks and pens and pencils. So ippon, nihon, sanbon. Hai is cups, like cups of drinks. So ikkai, nihai, sanbai for, you know, how many cups of water or juice or coffee you're serving.
What about when you want to say
yeah, ko is like a sort of generic small item counter, ko. So ikko, niko, sanko, yonko. That one doesn't shift very often, just for the ichi, ko, yeah, it shifts to the ku and hachiko, hako. I forget if hachiko shifts or not. Yeah, hachiko. But you've got your chart in the back of the book
Oh, okay.
that actually shows all the ones that this textbook introduces. And yeah, ko is small items, and it does shift, hako and roko and ikko, yeah, and jukko, all of those shift. So you can see the ones that are regular, that don't shift at all, are in that first column, and you see mai is in there. And we've actually had a couple of these already, but you didn't know that that's what they were. So like ichinensei, ninensei, sannensei are in the nen category. Yonensei is the only irregular there. Nin is another one. So if you're counting people, sannin, yonin, gonin, but then people for one or two, you count hitori, futari, so there are two irregulars, and then the rest of them are normal. Yeah. So, so that's kind of, so we've had, like I said, we've had G already, that counts as a counter word, right? And you remember the irregulars for there, yoji, shichiji, kuji. Okay. The same ones are irregular for gatsu, for the months, shigatsu for April, shichigatsu for July, and fugatsu for September. But, you know, and sai, that counts, and hasai, just sai, there, east side, there are some irregulars there. So you've had some of these counting phrases already, you just didn't know that that's what they were. But mai is the first one they introduce that is really foreign to English speakers, because we don't use measure words every time we talk about how many of thin flat objects, right? We use it for paper, sheets of paper, right? How many sheets of paper do you need? Oh, I want 5 sheets.
I like a loaf of bread.
Right, a loaf of bread versus a slice of bread, right? Yeah, there are two different things, right? You don't say, I want a bread. You say, either I want a loaf of bread or I want a slice of bread, because there's a big difference between those two, right?
Like a roll of bread.
Or a roll, yeah. So those are, but Japanese is a lot more pervaded by these measure words. There are a lot more of them. There are certain ones in English that are necessary, like slice of bread.
So for a slice of bread, would you say ichimai?
For a slice of bread, I think you can, actually, yeah.
Because it's a slice thin, right?
If it's sliced thin, yeah, then you can use mai for that. Yeah, I think you could pun ichimai, yeah.
And for a roll, you would make ikko.
Yeah, for a roll, because it's small and round, you would probably use ikko.
What about like a loaf of bread?
I don't know what word offhand, they might use hitotsu.
That's it.
Yeah, hitotsu kudasai, depending on what kind of loaf you're dealing with, because if you're talking about those long skinny baguettes, they might actually use ippon for that, yeah. Yeah, so, but like a more usual loaf that's sort of rectangular, they might use hitotsu futatsu. That's kind of the default setting when you don't know what measure word to use for something, use hitotsu futatsu. So the sooner you memorize that set of Japanese numbers, the better, because it's
weird.
there are more measure words than you will ever learn, you know? There are just too many of them, but even Japanese people don't know them all anymore because it's one of those things that
You don't use them.
you don't use the really unusual ones all the time. So if you don't know what the measure word is supposed to be, you use hitotsu, futatsu, mitsu to count.
Sensei.
Hey.
Well, there's actually a drama I was watching, or I
Uh-huh.
watched not too long ago. It's called Japanese that Japanese people don't know.
Yeah.
And they explain it the most intimidating way. They use tuna as an example, and when the tuna, like the actual fish, is in the water, it has one counter. And
Uh-huh.
when it's caught, it has a different counter. I don't remember all the specific counters.
Right.
But then when it's packaged, it has a different counter. When it's filleted, it has another different counter.
Oh,
And when it's
great.
cut again, it has another different counter. And when it's packaged again, it has yet another different counter.
Good grief.
So-
Hitotsu desu.
Yeah, hitotsu kudasai. Yeah, yeah, and of course, if it's like maguro sushi, then it's probably a different counter,
Yes,
again,
I
because
see.
it's part of a sushi dish,
That's-
you know,
that's another
or
piece.
part of sashimi or something,
Yeah.
you know. Ikko. Yeah, yeah, when you're talking like little pieces of sushi or whatever, ikko, nikko is probably a safe bet. But hitotsu futatsu also works. So, yeah, those counters are very useful. But it's also good to take note of the grammar structure of how they're asking for, please give me 3 of something, you know? So it's the noun that you want, o, and then how many with the counter, like sanmai, kudasai.
So if I want to say sakana o hitotsu kudasai.
Yeah, sakana o hitotsu kudasai. You don't need the o twice.
Okay.
Right, so sakana o hitotsu kudasai. So you just want one fish, which, you know, if you're in a fish market, that might be a whole fish. If you're in a restaurant, you might just be ordering one of whatever the fish dish is, and then you might also be ordering for your friend, hamburger o hitotsu. You know, so you're having sakana o hitotsu to hamburger o hitotsu kudasai. So you're ordering like one fish dish for yourself and one hamburger for your friend or something.
And they would
you
say
know.
enpitsu o ippon kudasai.
Ippon.
Ippon kudasai.
Right. Yeah, so if you're in like a bunboguya, which is what they call a stationery and office supply store, you might be asking for pen ippon kudasai.
Ippon kudasai.
Yeah.
Sensei,
Right.
is there a reason relative to that Japan is sometimes called Nippon?
Isn't that like military Japan?
Nothing to do with one another.
Okay.
Yeah. Nippon, Nihon. Nihon and Nippon.
I would think like Nippon.
Yeah,
referred
Nippon
to
does,
militaristic
yeah,
Japan.
yeah, Nippon does generally have the connotation of the more militaristic, aggressive, conquering other parts of Asia, Japan. And Nihon is a more neutral, that's the name of the country, you know, but when they were being very nationalistic, very, like gung-ho Japan in the 19-teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, Nippon was used a lot more. And
Okay.
now that they're trying to back away from that stance, Nihon is used a lot more. And if somebody says Nippon, they're being more nationalistic. Not necessarily all the way to militaristic, but definitely more nationalistic.
Is it like racist to say that?
Nippon?
Because isn't like
It-
nips racist to say?
Well, that is, because that's an English slang that
It's like
US
all
World
the-
War II soldiers used when we were fighting Japan. So, yeah, and I don't like Japs either. That, you
Yeah, that's
know,
what
pe-
they say when they're trying to be racist.
Right, yeah, so like, the abbreviation for this course is JPN, not JAP, because people would misread it, and it sounds racist, especially to Japanese Americans. Japanese native speakers are not necessarily aware of JAP being derogatory because it's not their first language. English is not their language, you know. So people in Japan may not be offended by it just because it doesn't mean anything to them. but Japanese Americans in this country are very offended by it. You know, because that's what Americans were calling them when we were trying to kill them in World War II. You know, so it's a racist term for sure.
I was just wondering, because I'm very interested, like,
Yeah.
having like a history class
Mhm.
for Japanese, like history, like ancient history, because I've always wanted to
Yeah.
learn it, but I don't know what to look, and even online. Like,
Yeah, they have it at Valencia College, which is in Orlando, and I might even get to teach it pretty soon. But-
I want to take it, and
Yeah.
I want to take like a history, like since
Yeah.
the very beginning.
Yeah,
Because they have-
what they have
it's really nice.
over there is a very like general overview. It's not super specific. It's called Asian Humanities, and it's a one semester sort of overview of all of Asia. So it's not going to get into
Does that
depth
include
about
India?
just Japan or just China. That it's going to include India. Yeah, I think.
Well, it is, yeah, you should too.
Yeah, so I think the Asian Humanities course in Valencia, I think they actually do sort of the highlights of India and China, and maybe a little bit about Japan, maybe a little bit about Vietnam and some of the other countries. I'm not sure yet of the details. I need to talk to the department people who have taught it before and find out how much they cover, what they focus on, and how much leeway there is in terms of, if I wanted to focus it more on East Asia, would I be allowed to, or do I have to cover all regions of Asia sort of equally? Because I know some courses that do Asian humanities will sort of give equal time to South Asia, Southeast Asia, and East Asia, because those are the three main regions that most people think of, you know.
If, let's say I were to go to Japan as an exchange student,
Mhm.
would there be a way for me to take an actual history class under it?
Yeah, depending on where you go, there are places where the curriculum assumes that you're gonna have like your 2 hours a day language class for Japanese, and then they have English language, history courses and things like that for the exchange students to take, taught in English. And then there are other places where it's like all Japanese all the time, but you might be allowed to sit in on a Japanese history course that's being taught in Japanese if you're advanced enough. So it depends on where you go and what program you're signed up for.
Like I said, I've been looking for books or so, but I
Mhm.
can't.
Well, and one of the things I would love to do here someday, I've got a Japanese history book that's in simple Japanese for the sake of like intermediate level students who want to learn the history in Japanese. It's a fairly old book, so it's dated, but it's history.
Yeah,
So,
it's
you know,
history.
it doesn't matter until you get to the modern era and it just sort of cuts off, you know. But I would love to teach a credit course here based on that book, which, you know, it would probably have to be like Japanese 3 or 4 would be the prereq, because it's advanced enough that you probably need to have gotten that far in Japanese language before trying to read this book.
How
But
many people would get to that?
that's the problem. I'm gonna have a hard time getting the enrollment numbers I would need for that course. So the other possibility that
Like
I
an
thought about would be,
independent study.
yeah, like an independent study, or, you know, if there were enough people who wanted it, but the course couldn't be created here for credit, I could teach it as a non-credit course. Maybe not on campus, maybe it would have to be at a different venue, but, you know, I've done private courses before where, you know, the students pay me privately and I just teach the course. So, and when it's like that, I have total control, you know.
Right.
So if I've got 10 students who really want that history textbook to be our book, then we could choose that, you know. And if it's still in print, everybody could get themselves a copy, and if it's not in print anymore, maybe I'd just be able to scan it into the computer or something and let everybody have a digital copy.
There's actually a website that my friend turned me on to not too long ago. It's called edX.
Uh-huh.
It's just a huge site where there's a bunch of free courseware for I don't know if there's anything for Japanese history or
Yeah.
Asian history, but I'm sure there probably is.
Okay.
But that could be a place, not only just for that, but if you're looking for a place to find good courses for free, even
Yeah.
to study, that's a good place to
That's
look.
good, okay, edX, huh? Yeah, we're pretty much out of time for today. I know you've got to get going to your next class, but, so for the next, so for next week, just maybe finish up this part of the chapter, work on your lesson 5 workbook stuff, work on the kanji stuff, and we, Tuesday we'll probably do some of the Matame no Renshu piece and the kanji practice stuff. Okay, that's what we're up to now. And if you guys want to come up with your own sample sentences for how to use counselors like mine, maybe come up with some practice activities on how to talk about, like, you know, hagaki o gomai kudasai or whatever. And, that would be good practice. Just come up with a few sentences and practice how to put together counter words. And don't forget that we can do number of people, if you remember how to do that one, and some others if you want to try to experiment with, like, gakusei wa nanni ni imasu ka? Gakusei wa 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ni imasu.
Yes, yes.
So, okay, so work on that, and next Tuesday we will kind of work on the kanji section more and the Matame no Renshu. And I don't remember when the chapter test was supposed to be according to your schedule, but if you guys feel ready and wanted to, either take the test early and move on, or move on even if we're not taking the test yet, if you feel like we've covered everything you wanted to cover in class and you're ready to move to the next material, we can.
Okay.
So, because I've got you guys down to keep going in lesson 5. Let's see, today's the 25th. Next week,
The 10th, I think.
and then, okay, so actually, and since scheduling wise, because you guys are doing every Tuesday instead of Tuesday and Thursday, I think we're just gonna need to move all the tests to the Tuesday so that Humana can be here for it. And my suggestion would be, maybe we just plan on doing the OPI and the written test in the same time period, and maybe do the OPI first, because it's only going to be like 5-10 minutes, and then do the test after that. If it's looking like the timing isn't going to be enough for you to finish, because I know you've got a deadline, but I think you guys have a little bit more time after this, right? If the time isn't going to be enough, we work something out, you and I, for you to be able to finish
Yeah.
your written test,
I
okay?
can always come in on Thursday and finish. Or I can come in after my class. But
Right.
usually I finish.
Yeah, usually you finish
I
early,
finish
so,
like early.
yeah, you usually finish early anyway, so it probably won't be a problem. So if we just do the first 5 minutes on the 8th as our chapter test, so that actually works out well. So we did this week, okay, so next week we'll finish like the kanji section and the Matame no Renshu, and then the following week will be the chapter test.
So next week is our test.
No, the week after next.
Oh, okay.
Next Tuesday, we're gonna finish like the kanji section and whatever else we might still have questions about from this chapter, and then the following week we'll do the chapter test. Sound good? That should be a workable schedule, and we'll just have the 3 of you do yours together, and these guys will do theirs on their Thursday. Their other time slot.
Three of us were thinking
Mhm.
that if we could finish this book this semester, would it be possible?
We would have to pick up the pace a lot.
We have to do like a chapter every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is not bad. It's not, but like,
Not bad.
aren't moving fast enough at this point
Yeah.
to do that. So you guys need to get together. I know Ellie's gotta leave, so if you need to go, go. But the three of you would need to get together and talk about whether or not that's feasible.
I can help,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but we,
So,
Are you guys going to language learning?
yes.
Yeah.
I
okay.
have to go to class.
Okay,
Yeah.
so go ahead and go, and you guys can all talk about that later. I mean, I'm certainly willing to teach it at whatever pace you guys are comfortable with,
I would mind.
but
Ellie,
What?
are you going to the,
she's got a class to get to.
are you going to the class after their class later on?
That's on Thursday, isn't it?
Yeah,
Oh, it's on
the
Tuesday.
afternoon is just gonna be on Thursdays. You guys are just on Tuesdays, they're just on Thursdays
Well, let me see.
in the afternoon for
Alright.
now, okay?
Because I don't want to be in there
I'm
alone.
gonna get out of my second class.
I get out of class at 1:30. I want to still be there.
My
Okay.
bike,
Okay, somebody will still be there, right? Somebody will still be there at 1:30.
more than, I
Yeah.
have to leave at 3.
Okay, so, yeah, but I mean, if you guys want to pick up the pace and go through your chapters faster and sort of catch up to them by the end of the term, you know, it's okay with me. But,
I do wanna try that.
Yeah, I mean, we can still have the test when you have, like, when you.
Schedule them,
Schedule.
yeah, if you want
But we
to.
can-
But if, yeah, I mean, if you guys are studying their stuff at the same time that you're studying your stuff, you know, I'm not necessarily gonna test you on that. I think that would be a little bit much.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you know, and you guys aren't getting credit for Japanese 3, but if you wanna go ahead and study the Japanese 3 material on your own, as much as you're able, and, you know, sit in on their class, even participate when you come to their class, that's fine by me. And, you know, it'll make your Japanese 3 that much easier if you decide to take Japanese 3 at some point in the future, if you want to keep studying. Yeah.
I actually might say that. I don't know why I would continue because I'm going into something different.
Oh, are you? Okay. So you kind of feel like this
I
might
really
be your
I really
last,
like it.
yeah, this might be your last
It
semester
might be.
that you can do this, so get the most out of it you can, yeah. Yeah, what are you going into that you,
Graphics technology,
oh, okay.
but knowing Japanese might